Out with it.
I wanted to. Maybe now isn't the best time.
You just interrupted my business. I don't care for numerous interruptions for one subject. What is your subject?
It's about you and me.
Did you say anything?
Regardless of that, the likability factor was way better. I do still feel like you're playing off of Amrit very nicely, but I do feel like that we can work a little bit more on the trust factor. You know, there still seems to be a little bit of an improvement of a moment. That you don't have the faith that if you do, this technique is built on muscle memory. There's 2 steps. There's the preparing and the executing, like being an athlete or a musician, learning the notes, and then we just play. And I think that sometimes you have the faith to do that. But there are other times that I feel like you're holding on and making sure that it comes through. Like, I gotta make sure that the intensity comes through. I gotta make sure that my asshole quality comes through. I gotta make sure that my not approving of him comes through. And you know, this technique, if you're doing it correctly, you have to have the faith and the trust that maybe it won't be there. You might fail, but you have to take the chance to see. You know, there's only 2 options, really. There's the option that you have, and then there's the option of taking that leap of faith to see if it's still there without watching or making sure it's there. But at least that way there's some hope. Because this way I can see the wheels turning. You do this, you'll lose the job if you do what you did today. It has to feel like what we're doing now. This feeling of me talking and you just kind of nodding your head and keeping it honest and organic. And you know, and when you break it down, well, why? Why does it have to feel that way? Well, the reason is because the audience needs a real person to connect to. We need a real human being to relate to, so that you remind me of somebody I know, you remind me of me, you remind me of some cousin or uncle or dad or whatever. But the only way that can happen is if you abide by those principles of truth. So once you try to improve truth, you sever the tie between you and us. Does that make sense? Furthermore, again, I know that we talked about this last time, the ability to sort of start a scene small and let it get bigger. And it may, in other words, it has to have a build, right? It has to have a beginning, middle, and ending. And it may have felt like you did that, but you're still way too big at the beginning. Now, it may feel like you're not, but what I would say to you is, if you need to look at it from an organic standpoint, you can look at it from, I can still have all of this emotion in me, but I'm just more successful at containing it at the beginning than at the end. Because as the scene goes on, I'm more and more disappointed with him. He makes me more and more embarrassed that he's my son, and then I become less and less capable of containing it.
When I went to these workshops.
Oh, okay. So,
and they would say I didn't have enough energy.
Yeah.
The scene was fine, but I didn't have enough energy. So then I spent a lot of time trying to get the energy, and now I'm trying to get the energy, but I just...
Listen, I know exactly what you're talking about. I used to go through this. And the only way we're going to see if this actually is working is if you let go and see if there's enough energy. But you're not going to save the scene by punching it up.
By punching it up, yeah.
That is a guaranteed failure.
So my energy seems artificial.
Well, yeah. I mean, it did feel like you had energy, though.
Yeah.
You know, and I had no issue with the amount of intensity you had. It's just I can see you consistently making sure it's there.
Yeah. Yeah, I am. I'm conscious of it because I've been told so many times.
So it may very well be that when you were letting the scene go, you hadn't built enough to let go. And that may very well be like why you didn't have enough energy. You may have abided by the good thing, which is just keeping it real, keeping it honest, just letting it happen, but you didn't build the house to execute the house. You just did it. And maybe you didn't do enough preparation to have something there when you did let go. That's a very common thing. It's sort of like if I was a dancer, you know, and I just decide, okay, hey David, I'm going to do the dance, and I just start running around dancing. And you're like, dude, what are you doing? You didn't even learn the steps yet. But I'm letting go. I'm executing, but there's nothing to execute yet. It doesn't feel real. We have a problem.
Yeah.
And now when you say to yourself, well, what should it feel like? Like this. You see, I'm talking to you now.
Uh-huh.
This. Why? Because this is honest. And I mean, I've experimented around. I've tried your version, and then I've tried what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
Every time I do what I'm talking about, the feedback I get on my work is stellar. And it doesn't make any sense, because on the one hand, I don't feel like I'm doing anything.
And I wanna do it this way.
Right.
I do.
I believe you. I believe you. It's just, it's actually harder to do,
I know.
because it really requires a lot of courage.
Mhm.
A courage that I'm gonna take a chance that you're not gonna see what I've prepared. And that's harder to do. But if you look at the greatest actors, they're all very, very, very small.
Mhm.
Not here though.